It's Ron Reader Digs the Universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe. And tonight, lazy, good-for-nothing Gen Z. I remember being horrified when I was a teenager in the 1980s by stories I was hearing about how baby boomers entering the workforce were not only expected to put in 80-hour weeks, but also that these poor motherfuckers were zealously embracing workaholic culture as normal and the only way to achieve the American dream, whatever that means. I personally tried not to think about it too much, resolving myself to avoid this fate somehow, which I have done to some extent, but it hasn't been easy, and it's sort of put me on society's fringe. Lately, though, I've been thinking that maybe the times are catching up with me. I'm not feeling so fringy anymore. For the last few years, I have been seeing news story after news story, meme after meme, social media discussions, on and on, all asserting that Gen Z, the group of Americans born between the mid-1990s and the early 2000 teens, are a bunch of lazy good-for-nothings. Just like me. Apparently, according to opinion polls, a lot of Gen Zers agree with this assertion of their character. How's that for society forcing an identity on you? Because, you know, I work with a lot of Gen Z in a restaurant, and lazy is not how I would describe them. Maybe a little saucy, maybe a little less willing to accept the way things are, but not lazy. The Gen Zers I know work as hard as anybody else. I mean, come on. Gen Z has been at the center of Black Lives Matter. They have gotten the climate movement rolling, and for the first time in U.S. history, they've created a pro-Palestine movement. Don't tell me they're lazy. Don't tell me they don't like to work. They've already accomplished great things. The reality here is what we call work encompasses a lot more than simply working. Workplace conditions, pay, hours, and so on. The kind of issues over which labor unions traditionally negotiate with management. But since the virtual sidelining of organized labor starting back in the late 1970s, we've all been conditioned to accept the terms of employment as being immutable. So much so that it is shocking to see young people challenging those terms today. We live in dark times, but this Gen Z rethinking of what work means is one of the few things keeping me optimistic. I mean, sure, as Marx observed, we live to work just because work needs to be done. We have to work. We live to work. But Marx also observed that we work to live. Capitalism, as a primary influencer of American culture, has gotten us to overemphasize wildly the work aspect of Marx's equation these last 50 years or so. Generation Z, as far as I can tell, simply seeks to restore the balance between working and living. And that can only be good. I'm Ron Reader, and this has been Ron Reader Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reader, again next week for another episode of Ron Reader Digs the Universe.